everyone. Welcome back to the Search Bar, the podcast for law firm leaders who want smarter growth without the guesswork, and wine is optional. I'm Eric Ritter, founder of Digital Neighbor. After 12 plus years helping law firms scale from the inside out, I'm here to share what actually works: sharper marketing, stronger systems, and strategies built to grow with you. If you're running a law firm and want more of the right leads, larger retainers, and more cases closed, you're in the right spot here. And if you're ready to put these ideas into work, check out my Motion for Marketing system. It starts with a free discovery session, no fluff, just a clear path forward. The link's going to be in the show notes. Now to today's episode. I'm super excited because it's all about one of the most overlooked tools in legal marketing, which is email. It's not flashy, it's not trendy. Believe me, it still works when done right. Joining me today is the awesome William Howard. He's a partner development associate at Intuit MailChimp. William works closely with the MailChimp partner community, helping agencies and businesses leverage email to build long-term relationships and drive consistent growth. With experience in both the nonprofit and tech spaces, he brings a powerful perspective on what it takes to communicate with clarity and scale with intention. William, thank you so much for joining us here on the Search Bar.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me.
And so usually we're going to throw everybody, all the listeners, a curveball today. Usually we do a wine recommendation, but we talked ahead of time, and it sounds like you're more of a whiskey drinker, and you might have a whiskey recommendation, something that might pair really well with this episode.
Yeah, I think, it may be a little hard hitting for the early afternoon or morning that you're in, but if you're watching this or listening in the evening time, it's a Breckenridge whiskey. I'm a Colorado local here, so Breckenridge makes a good whiskey, and they're out of their mountain distillery. So makes a good old fashioned as well. So
fantastic. Yeah. I'm an old fashioned drinker myself, so I might have to check out the Breckenridge whiskey there. That does sound pretty delicious. I'm all about supporting local, right? So if you can't get Breckenridge, maybe support your local distillery out there and get some whiskey from them.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, today we're diving into how law firms can use email marketing to stay on top of mind, increase client retention, and build a sustainable pipeline without breaking the bank. So let's get into it. William, you're subject matter experts. I want you to start talking here, but I want to start with the basics. Email marketing, like I said in the intro, really isn't flashy, but we know it delivers. So why does it continue to work so well, especially like in industries like legal, William?
Yeah, I think email it's super effective across all industries, but in the legal space, it's super cost effective with a really high rate of return. Email marketing is relatively inexpensive, really inexpensive in comparison to those traditional advertising methods like print, TV, and radio ads. With carefully crafted messages, law firms can really reach a wide audience without having to spend a fortune, And additionally, those campaigns can be tracked, optimized, and that way you can kind of maximize the rate in which you're going to, engage with your audience.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. And I'm going to challenge you a little bit here because a lot of the law firms I work with, they feel like we should ignore email because they think it's too salesy, but really, how can you make sure that it's not, that it actually adds value and it's not just a salesy message to your database?
Yeah, I mean, you can truly use it as a thought leadership avenue to build credibility. Law firms can use email marketing to send out newsletters, legal campaigns, updates, case studies, and really provide that valuable insight on legal topics to demonstrate that expertise and strengthen the firm's authority and credibility through the eyes of the client, right? You can also use it to drive traffic to your website. So email marketing campaigns can often include like links to your blog posts, some videos, service pages, and then also can drive more of that digital presence that you may be looking for online by sending emails to direct folks to your LinkedIn, to a certain YouTube video, this podcast, for example. So that's just a really great way to kind of balance those misconceptions as you kind of go out and engage with your audience.
Great points. And one question came up as you were talking is you got to send the email to someone, right? You mentioned clients. How do you get people to send an email to? Like, how do you create an email list?
I think, you can do pop-up forms, you can do QR codes. There's a lot of folks out there that are using, a list building tool, in that way you're using MailChimp, for example, to kind of manage that audience. So, a good example, you go to your local coffee shop, your local, boutique, and they may like say, hey, sign up for my newsletter, sign up for our updates so you can get discounts, you can be a part of our reward program. And that way, the law firm can maybe send out a QR code to their audience, maybe put it on their front door, their LinkedIn page, or anything to kind of drive some audience engagement, capture those audience members, and then put them into MailChimp and start sending out those campaigns.
Fantastic. And I completely agree, right? It's really about having those quality touch points with clients or potential clients. So that way you're top of mind when they make a decision, right? If they need a defense attorney or they're going to go through a divorce or they were in an accident, they want to remember you because you put that thought leadership out there. And one thing I just wanted to add on, just to underline for everyone listening, is I think what is important is consistency, right? It's not just, hey, let's put out an email or let's put out an email whenever we feel like it. You want to come up with a cadence that works and be consistent. Just like any other marketing, right? You don't just put up a billboard for one day and think it works. You need to put up that billboard for a long time to create your brand. Same thing with email. You need to be consistent how often you put it out and when you put it out.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, that was great stuff there. So let's dive a little bit more into how to get email right, because we started talking about a little bit there. Execution really is everything. If you're going to invest in email, which is a great investment, as we already talked about, you have to do it well. So what does a good email look like in 2025, and kind of where are we at? We've been doing email for a long time, William. Probably while you were in diapers, I was emailing people.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, where are we now in 2025 when it comes to email? What are we going to do? What do we need to do now to make sure that we're future proofing our emails as we send them out?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, you kind of touched on it. You want to make sure your emails are high performing. That'll really invest in those subject lines, the content within it, and then optimizing that cadence that you're going to send out. So you made a good point. It could have been 20 or 30 years ago. Email was just brand new. It was getting started. AOL, was really pushing out that really big, you've got mail. But now, like, we're kind of thinking of ways to, use that same you've got mail, but now transform it into like, oh wow, I have mail in my inbox. I'm excited to see it versus
Yes.
that spammy, like, oh man, Eric Ritter's emailing me again. Let me
Yeah.
spam. So really want to invest, in all these things. And I'll start with subject lines. You really want to make it attention grabbing. So that subject line is your first impression of your email, right? So it makes a great one versus a not so great. And it also increases the likelihood of it being opened. So key tips include you want to keep it short and compelling. Aim for about 6 to 10 words to ensure it's fully visible on mobile devices. Mobile first is a big push MailChimp is trying to transition to. So yesterday I was crafting, kind of switching gears, but I was crafting an email to send out to partners like you. And I saw that you can actually just edit only for mobile first and then go into the desktop version to craft your email. So yeah, really pushing for mobile first because now that's the first line of defense when it comes to seeing your emails, seeing in text messages, going to phone calls. It's the only way to really truly communicate with folks now. So mobile first, always keep that in mind. And then also focus on the value or curiosity. So you want to highlight what's in it for the reader. For example, you may want to unlock an exclusive discount today, or quick tips to save time, or quick tips to, win those cases. For example, and make it personal. You want to make subject lines like that, maybe include a recipient's name, or a location or some relevant detail that's relevant for them. And then always avoiding those spam triggers like all caps or buy now or act now, things like that, because that Google and Yahoo, etc., can really filter out those things and put them into spam. But content is also super valuable as well, because you want to deliver that value by kind of incorporating what you talked about in your subject line to call it back out in your content. So folks aren't just reading and saying, "Oh wow, they hooked me in, they lied." So we're really gonna focus in and make it valuable, and prioritize what the recipient's needs are. Offer solutions, some insights, deals, exclusive content that may solve some of those problems or may spark some interest. And then always including a clear call to action throughout all of that as well. So when a law firm may offer a download my free guide,
Mm.
or sign up now for my webinar I'm hosting. So those are really great examples to incorporate all aspects to make it super engaging. But I'll wrap this up with cadence because like timing is everything.
Yeah.
Timing and frequency of the emails play a critical role in engagement and like avoiding that fatigue and unsubscribes that you may get. So stick to a reliable schedule. So a lot of folks see emails in the morning, mid afternoon, but it really depends on your audience and like who, how they engage with you. So like being inconsistent can like hurt that trust. They may be expecting an email from you every morning. If you miss a day, they may fall off the ladder and not open the rest. And you
Mm.
also don't want to overwhelm them. So like, too many emails can be a problem. So we send about, 1 to 2 email campaigns a week can really see a lot of like natural engagement because you don't want to send every single day and then folks are just kind of tired of hearing from you. Then you always want to monitor, that cadence, monitor that performance. And that way you can kind of see what's working, what's not, and you can change and adapt to move forward.
Right. So you answer one of the questions I get so often, William, is how often should I be reaching out? So it sounds like once or twice a week is a good cadence to have, but testing it out, what works, there is the key component.
Exactly. Yeah, you're testing it out because you want to reach out, at a frequency that works with your audience, just to recap. And then also adapt and change to see what's working. And like if they want more emails, send more emails. If not, then you can kind of scale it back and tailor it to your audience.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you mentioned kind of AOL, you've got mail. So it's funny, this morning I saw an article like the end of the modem because
Oh
AOL, I
no.
think was like the last provider that still lets you do dial-up, right? And use modems. And so that's gone now. But what that triggered in my mind is that used to be a family event, to your point, when you had dial-up. Everybody gets in the computer room. That used to be a thing in a house. You had a computer room with a computer. Everybody gather around. We're going to go online and get our email. Everybody would sit around and it was like a family event, right? The email came in. And I think that's really that feeling that you want to rekindle in people to be excited to get an email from you and a message that they want to be like, oh, wow, that's an email from William. He always shares great takeaways, great content, has that subject line, makes me want to click on it, right? So bringing all those components together and almost like, and I don't want to exaggerate, but it has to be like Christmas morning. Like I want to open that package and I want to open that email, and figuring out how to make that happen with your target customers or with your target audience is so important.
Yeah. This memory lane.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Now, to your point, you just get 1,000 emails and you just select all delete. I don't even care. Right. You get so
Exactly.
much in your inbox. But, for me personally, I get some emails in there. Like I get newsletters. I enjoy reading them. Right. And I've said that before to other people is I'm busy. Like I don't go on social media. I don't really pay attention because I'm just working. But an email gives me the chance to consume the content when I'm ready, right? So my hack is I have a little folder where I put the newsletters I care about. They automatically get filtered there. And then before I sign off, I check those newsletters to kind of see what happened, whether it's in the industry or news, et cetera. You mentioned send time optimization, which I think is really, really important because that's when people are most likely to open it. But also, I think even more important that is that the content is so good that people will be like, oh, I'm going to save that and read that later.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to know, what resonates with you when it comes to sending campaigns and reading. You have a folder of newsletters. I'd love to
Yeah.
know like what's top of mind for you and interesting.
Yeah, no, great question. So for me, kind of the summary emails that do a great job of breaking the news down and making it succinct. So like shout out to the Morning Brew. They do a great job. Kind of, I even like their story, right? They started off like, hey, it was a PDF you could sign up for and it would send you the PDF to making it a newsletter that is written in an interesting way and engaging so you want to read it, but then it's also news that you care about because it's interesting. And if you want to read more, you can click to read the full article, but I can just scroll through the email and the email gives me all the information I need to be informed and up to date.
That's awesome. Yeah, same. I subscribe to them as well.
So that's a good one there. Shout out to the Morning Brew. And I also want to make sure, just since we do have a lot of law firm legal listeners, making sure that you're paying attention to any legal specific compliance concerns, right? So, law firms need to make sure that you're opting in and you're disclosing that that this is law firm advertising, because you don't want to just potentially solicit your legal service to someone that hasn't opted in. So that's important, kind of on your list, making sure that it's very clear that people are opting in to receiving messaging, potential advertising messages from you.
Exactly. And you always want to use like an email marketing platform that has a built-in compliance feature like
Yeah.
MailChimp. So like there's automatic unsubscribes if if there's a couple bounces or soft bounces, for example. You also if you're international, some GDPR tracking
Mhm.
tools are built into MailChimp as well, so that we're kind of following all the rules across the board. And then always like regularly update that knowledge of like state and federal laws so that you're not breaking any rules of ethics or sending out information that may not be appropriate. And then we're all law firms, so I think that we kind of know what's appropriate and not. But just always training your team as well on those compliance requirements, because you may hire outside of your team, and this might just be a marketing firm, a third party, and always want to have that team really specialized and really understand those requirements so that you can have those campaigns reviewed and send out without any issues.
Love it. And so you answered another question I get all the time from lawyers or attorneys is, why can't I just send out with my Outlook? Why do I have to get a platform, right? Why do I have to pay for this? I can just take my email database, dump it in Outlook and send it out. And you know it, but it's to say, hey, what about the Canned Spam Act? What happens if someone unsubscribes? You're going to keep track of that, you
Right.
know? And so there's you mentioned so many great points there. So just don't do it. Don't use your Outlook. Don't use your Gmail. Use a platform, whatever it is. If it's MailChimp, even better.
It makes it so much easier.
Absolutely. Great points there. We talked a little bit about measuring and kind of seeing what works and not. I want to talk a little bit more about how to scale and measure that success, because we talked about, sending it out is important, but once you want to grow from there and you want to scale, you need to track that performance. So just curious, William, you've been doing this for a while. You're the expert here. In your opinion, what does success look like, and how could a law firm make the most of this channel? What are some pro tips there from you?
Yeah. You always want to test and measure your email campaigns. So keeping track of your open rates, click rates, those unsubscribes, and maybe even new subscribes as folks come in as you start to build your list. And then you can do that in multiple ways to see, like, let's compare this email to another to see which one gets opened more or clicked more. We call that A/B testing. So you can see, like, for example, a subject line may be different, or the content may be different within the email, and you want to compare and contrast, flip that, and see which one resonates more. You can always do some multivariant testing as well, which tests like multiple variants at one time. So you can have A, B, C, D, example emails with like one thing different between all of them, because you may want to, send an email that's, for family law that's a little different, or you may want to send an email for estate planning, or criminal law. Things may be different.
Yeah.
So everyone kind of has their niches, and you may want to test to see what works, and then you can always like vary the message within that same group as well. So yeah, that's just really great ways to test and see what resonates, and like that way you can build like a solid assessment of your results to see like campaign A performed 10 times better than B, so we're going to really focus on campaign A, and that way we can start to engage more with our audience, and make plans around those results, and then always keeping like measurements as well. So as you build out that testing environment, know which engagement indicator is like what matters most, and then like what that means will help you understand your performance every step of the way. For example, I mentioned those email open rates can shine a good light into how
Mhm.
good your subject lines and like even the preview lines are performing, because there's two things you may want to keep in mind. Like, your subject line is the first bolded thing that someone may see, but those preview texts underneath it, especially in Gmail, you'll see that always kind of hooks people in as well, because I may like see a subject line and like want to know a little bit more before I open it up and save it for later. So it's just always performing, it's always understanding the performance of that as well. And then some more KPIs to include, like your website traffic, maybe some social media interactions, like who's sharing your post, who's mentioning you in your post, and always like who's liking, loving, and celebrating, especially if you're on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. That could also be a good way to kind of engage with those folks as well, especially if they're online and noticing your content. And then your direct mail response rate. MailChimp also includes direct mail as a way to engage with campaigns. So you may want to see like, who's opting into your most recent newsletter after sending that direct mail campaign, or who's calling you on the phone after you sent them a letter. It's a really great way to kind of see what's testing to see what works, and then also adapting your messages to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, you gave a lot of great points why to use almost a marketing automation tool like
Yeah.
MailChimp because it does much more than email, right? You mentioned direct mail, and I'm a big fan of direct mail. A lot of people say, oh, direct mail is dead. And like, no, it's a great way to get in front of people cost effectively to a physical address. We talked like earlier, we are reminiscing about, hey, email used to be an event, right? I think physical mail, direct mail, similarly, like you used to get excited to get a letter. If you get a well crafted postcard direct mail, that's a great way to get exposure, a great way to get that impression with someone to trust you. And you mentioned even like maybe that's a way to build your email database. You got a bunch of addresses, but you don't have email database. Send everybody a piece of direct mail. It's not going to cost you much, and you're going to get their email address as well. Bring them to your website, and you get great interplay between the different channels. So, segmentation is something that you touched on a little bit. And I think that's an often overlooked part of email marketing. So for you mentioned like have you have different practice areas, different messages, right? For our clients, at a minimum, we say you should have three buckets, right? You should have prospects, clients, and team members. And that's the bare minimum of what you should have. What do you usually see as a best practice, like how to segment lists, maybe even for specifically for the legal or law firm world?
It's a good question. I think at a high level, segmentation involves dividing the audience into groups that share similar traits. So that can be based off demographics, engagement levels. For example, you may want to, like you mentioned, segment the audience by personal injury, corporate, family law, if you kind of have a general practice. But if
Yeah.
you're really specific, you may want to divide it into clients or prospects. So like, misconceptions kind of circle around. Can you use those segmentation tools to, send out direct sale emails to prospects? But it's really, again, being a thought leader, having a well-crafted message can really transform those prospects into new clients. And then also using maybe a segmentation as well for clients. And you may want to send them some re-engagement emails, some happy birthdays, or anything that may like resonate with them and their audience. And that way they can make, hey, like I'm going to reach back out to them because I actually have something else I need help with. So now I'm going to seek legal counsel with someone I've already talked with. I trust them, and that way they're always staying engaged with me. And that way I can kind of be, again, I'm top of mind for them and they're top of mind for me. But yeah, by sending those targeted messages, to each segment, you can increase the relevancy of the email, leading to higher open rates, click-through rates, I mean, ultimately better results. So it kind of yields into like increased relevancy and higher engagement rates, and really boost that customer satisfaction amongst all of your segments.
I used to always say, because I teach at the local university, digital marketing, I always say, segment or die. It's that simple, right? Like
Oh yeah.
segmentation is really, really important because you want to make sure you're sending the right message to the right person. And that's what digital allows you to do. I did kind of have an interesting question here for you, kind of, we're talking about optimizing and growing and all that. Is do you maybe have like one quick win improvement that a law firm could make maybe today if they're listening to this podcast to make their email marketing work better for them?
I was going to say segmentation, but I think that's the number one thing. Like, making sure the list is targeted and the content is personalized. Taking it a step further, you may want to personalize that content even more. So, like, really keeping track of your audience to say, like, if my folks in personal injury law are really engaging with newsletters, I'm going to send them only newsletters. Or
Mhm.
if another segment in my audience really engages with, free guides, free like things that like I can click and download and read for later, and you're seeing some meetings being booked or like some clients being converted after certain engagements within your emails. That's one thing as well. So like quick improvements. Really pay attention to what your audience is doing, because they may be clicking things, downloading things in the background that you can really keep track of through tools like Mailchimp or any other email service provider.
I always like to end the episode with a checklist for people, and no different on this episode. Like to wrap it with a checklist, maybe the 5 email essentials for law firm growth. And those are 5 things any law firm can do today to step up their email game. So I'll read them out, William, and then just feel free to jump in and add your commentary, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So we'll start with number 1, which is build and maintain a clean segmented list. And obviously we can't say it enough because we've already said a couple of times it's number 1 on your checklist, right?
And you always want to best practice, get permission before adding someone to your list, because the worst thing can happen is you get a ton of spams or blocks, and that can really mess up your deliverability.
Yeah, no, so true. And once it's delivered, that's number 2, is making sure you're writing a subject line that actually gets opened. And that's, you already talked about that, William, right?
Always, avoid those trigger words, of spammy words, act now, or get something for free. Keep it short and concise, but really have it resonate with that content that's below in that email and preview line.
And then the content, number 3, focus on helpful, relevant content, not salesy blasts.
And making sure that, it's, again, relevant. They want that information. Like I said before, understand your audience, because that's key.
So true. Let's move on to number 4, which is setting up at least some basic automations like welcome and re-engagement emails. You did talk about re-engagement. We really did get into welcome emails too much, William, but those are important.
Exactly, yeah, because a well-crafted welcome series like introduces your brand, communicates that value. It really encourages those subscribers to take that next step. So, like, for example, it could be email one, could be in the intro, brand story. Like, this is my law firm. This is how I've transformed the lives of countless people. Here's a testimonial from one of my favorite clients. And then the next email could be, the value prop of how, for example, this could happen to you. This is my service that could solve your problem. And then the third email could be a call to action, like, hey, this is who I am. Remember, we're always here to help. And book a time with us, have a free consultation. Perhaps here is a tips and tricks guide to kind of alleviate some things in the meantime while you decide to work with us.
I love that, right? So just staying front and center and keeping the conversation going, I think is so important. 5, last but not least, maybe most important, test and measure what works and do more of that.
Yeah, the testing and measure and repeat. That's kind of the mantra that, segment or die, test, repeat, test and repeat. That's it. That's the mantra.
Test and repeat. I love it. That was so great. That was so helpful, William. Thank you so much. And a big thank you to you, William, and the MailChimp team for sharing these powerful email strategies. William, what's the best way for people to maybe connect with you or learn more?
I'm on LinkedIn. So William Howard, MailChimp Partner Development Associate at Intuit MailChimp. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can do email. So you can email me at William_Howard at intuit.com.
Love it. And if you're ready to step up your law firm's visibility, lead flow, and client relationships, don't sleep on email. It's still one of the best tools in your arsenal to grow your law firm. And just a reminder, today's wine recommendation was actually a whiskey recommendation courtesy of William, because just like a good email campaign, you want to make sure that you have that good whiskey, because that's the great foundation for an old-fashioned.
Strong, and you can have another one after.
That's right. That's right. But preferably at the end of the day, right? So wait until all those emails are all set up and automated, and then you're good to go.
Exactly.
And if you want help growing your law firm, book your free discovery session through my website to get started with your Motion for Marketing system. I'll help you build the growth engine your firm needs. The link will be in the show notes, and that's growth through anything and everything, including email. If this episode was helpful, share it with your team or a fellow law firm owner. And if you got 30 seconds, a quick review of the podcast would be awesome. Every bit of support helps, and I will read reviews on a future episode. Until next time, grab your glass, segment your email list, and let's build something that lasts. William, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Cheers, everyone. Take care.